welcome again to Marvel Talk. I am Ol'Ed, and I'm joined by my Marvel Talk tag team partner, Andre C. He's not a Skrull. Or is he?
You never know.
Or is he?
I'm not giving up my moniker this week. I'm giving mysterious.
This week's episode was an absolute banger again. This show just seems to be getting more and more interesting as the weeks go on. We have the first episode, which is a lot of exposition to explain where we are in the world, what's gone on, where everybody sits, and telling us players for a brand new piece of the world that we haven't seen. Because it's so street level and something different from anything other than Captain Marvel that we needed to reset this world, as opposed to other episodes and other shows where we can just kind of go into it and things will work themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of my favorite ones that I talk about with that is Hawkeye. We don't need the backstory to Hawkeye. We know what happened in Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
And the backstory that we're going to get in Hawkeye, they're going to be able to tell us through the show. They wanted to do the same thing with She-Hulk. They didn't want to start us with, this is how I became a Hulk, but they decided in the editing bay that they had to do it that way, so they did.
Yeah. We're getting reveals just in increments, and I am loving it.
Yep. I put this like, I never really watched Lost, but I think it gives people the same kind of feeling of every episode ends you with questions. The next episode starts and you answer a bunch of those questions. And then they give you 15 more questions at the end of the episode. You go, oh my God, what is this, this, and this?
But unlike Lost, I hope they pay their shit off. Because that's the main thing for me.
I think they will, and we're going to get there. Obviously, this is a review episode. This is as non-spoiler as we're going to get. We're going to go into and explain piece by piece. So, Astrid, if you still haven't seen the episode yet while you're watching this, please go back and watch the episode first. We love you. We'll see you later. The beginning of the episode starts with the plot point that we're going to talk about throughout the show about the Neptune. It is a submarine by the UK Naval Service. The Great Britain and Ireland is specifically Northern Ireland is who's running this submarine. But it's basically, it's a plot point throughout the show, and we see them getting ready to take the Skrulls and put them on board to go ahead and start the next part of the plan. Mm-hmm. But the biggest first reveal we have is Gravik talking to the Council and calling Super Skrulls for a word. We hear him say the word Super Skrulls in front of the four members of the Council that are left. Mm-hmm. It is the British Prime Minister. It is the unexplained Asian man who's dressed in street clothes.
That guy.
Christopher Stern, or as I'm going to call him now, Shooter McGavin, for the rest of the show.
It's Shooter Stern, come on.
It's Shooter Stern. And we also have the guy who runs NATO.
Yeah.
So we have those four who were there, and he talks about Super Skrulls, and he talks about how he's going to give everybody powers. I don't think he's giving everybody all the powers. I think everybody's going to have specific powers. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's going to be limited to his military people first, and then those in who are more of a political nature will get powers as they need them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense because he's not going to give the powers to just everybody, because then there could be an uprising against him, and he's smart. I can't say he's too smart to know that, because again, you never know. Most megalomaniacs take themselves down, but he did
a la Hitler. Let's just be honest here. Hitler.
Yep. Yeah, but
Napoleon.
He's got the smarts to realize he needs to do it incrementally. The people he trusts most, and then there is a point to this show of weeding out those he does not.
Yeah. And there's a great shot, speaking of trust and not trust, where Gravik has a conversation with Gaia talking about Brogan and how they knew that they were going to be at the safe house last week. Mm-hmm. And we get this great shot. And this is a fantastic shot. She wakes up and he's just sat there. Mm-hmm. And they start talking about this. And he's like, I wonder who spilled. And she's like, well, Brogan did. And he's like, well, Brogan didn't know where we were going to be. Only you, me, and Pagan knew where we were going. And she's like, well, he obviously kind of sort of knew where we might end up, and he just kind of elaborated from there. Mm-hmm. But the greatness of this shot is looking at the curtain behind them and the streaming light that came in. I was listening to a podcast earlier, I can't remember if it was New Rockstars or Real Rejects, that talked about this curtain and how the bits and pieces of the missing curtain are like the bits and pieces of a redacted document that you'd be able to read. And that everything where the light's not shining in is hidden from us. So we're on episode 3, and half this document, more than half, is hidden.
Well, it's redacted unless you're Sony.
Yeah. But no, I love that idea that there's information that we don't know, and that, again, that we continuously get in dribbles and bits.
Yeah.
And I love that idea.
Yeah, because I love the reveal, the small little reveals of this story, because everything is these little hints, and they give you hints, but can you trust the hint? Is that hint going to be what it is going forward? And those are the things that I'm very very into, and why this, like I said, the first episode was fine, but then episode 2, you and me talk about, we said that thing kicks so much ass, and then this only just took it higher even more. It's just lots of great people acting their asses off and just killing it and just the subterfuge between each of the characters, especially with those two, the way they're like, neither trust the other, but they don't know if they can trust the other, and it's just that they're playing a part with each other.
I know we talked last week about the stars of the episode. We each gave our star of the episode. Mm-hmm. This episode, I think you cannot get any better than Kingsley Ben-Adir.
No. 100%.
He owned every scene he was in this episode. And I've never seen him. I've seen a lot of the other people in this show. I kind of knew who they were. I've never seen anything he was in that I can remember.
Me either.
This man walks on a screen and just instantly steals the scene. And he understands this role. And if he doesn't understand this role, he's doing a really good job of faking it, because I think he understands this role to a T.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen...
Yeah.
How many Marvel actors have we seen that don't understand the job?
Oh, fuck. So many. But, like, he has this... And I think it's him bringing it to the character, too. It's the person there, too. He has just, like, utter swagger and just, like, gravitas that I don't know if anybody else playing this character would have done it in quite this awesome of a way. Because he's just, like, outwardly cocky while still being weirdly sympathetic. It's so weird.
We finally get the parlay meeting between him and Talos. And we get this wonderful scene. I'm skipping a scene, we're going to go back to it, where we talk about Nick Fury. But I want to get more with Kingsley Ben-Adir right now. Where they're in this museum of art. And they're looking at this painting in particular. And it's a painting of World War I politicians trying to figure out World War I while it's being fought on the fields. In the middle of this painting, in the general light right here, is Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. And everybody else around him is people helping figure it out. And in this scene, this is them backing off of it. Gravik has this incredibly frantic acting style where he's talking with his hands, and he's not the slow, lumped down guy that we've seen. He gives us this frenetic energy where he talks about the difference between leaders and soldiers. And he talks about how soldiers go out there and fight for what they believe in, while these politicians in the council just sit here behind closed doors and do their thing to run things. But it's the people who get up and do something, who believe in what they believe in and are willing to die for it. Those are the real leaders of these movements. And that's why he wants to be how he wants to be. And he looks at Talos, and that's why he has no respect for Talos. Because of this. And I love the frenetic energy in this moment as he does this. Because in every scene, we've seen him like this. Where he's, like you said, all for the swagger. He's full of everything, a confidence in everything. But he's meticulous. He's slow to talk. And everything you believe. And then in this scene, he's just a mile a minute. And he knows exactly what he wants to do. And he's getting this point across to Talos. And it's so fantastic.
Like he's just, again, like I said, it's the swagger, it's the confidence, it's everything. But it's this version was such a different version while still having that swagger and gravitas. but waxing philosophical about saying like you're one of the politicians, you're one of the problem because you don't want to get dirty, you don't want to get your hands dirty, you're not one of the people fighting and killing and putting blood. I think he said something to the point of he wants to get blood in his hands. If he
Yeah.
has to die, he wants to have blood all over his hands. That's how he wants to exist in the world. He doesn't want to be the guy in the office. This is a guy who he's the general. He's now the general of the Skrull army, but he's a general that wants to be right up front, leading everyone into battle, and that's the difference he has with Talos, who wanted to lead from essentially a perch, is at least from his perspective.
Yeah. We then get the parlay meeting where they go and they sit down and they're talking. And he's instigating Talos the entire time, talking about how Gaia's a spy for him, how he should have just sent Gaia back by now in a body bag because he shouldn't trust her. Because why should he? They're on opposite sides and this is his daughter. And then we get the scene from the trailer where he says one too many things about the daughter Gaia, and Talos just reacts and he grabs him. And I love this screenshot that I managed to grab because I got a couple people mid change. So if you look over here, over Talos' back, you go ahead and see somebody who's fully changed into Kingsley Benadire. Mm-hmm. In this middle part, right in front of this flower and portrait, you have somebody who's half changed. And then right next to them, you have somebody who hasn't changed.
You can even see it. Her clothes are changing.
Yes.
Like, that's the perfect shot, dude.
it's so... I was so lucky to grab this shot. Again, kudos to New Rockstars for grabbing fantastic images and allowing me to search through their videos to find the perfect still images to grab. Mm-hmm. But in this scene, it's so great how he baits Talos into this. And he does it in such a fantastic way. And it ends with Talos stabbing him with a fork and walking away. But when he stabs him with the fork and Talos walks away, he yanks his hand out like this. Just pulls it out with the knife cutting through his skin. And then healing with extremis powers. And in this moment, we find out he's already a Super Skrull.
Yep.
He's already have extremis powers.
But it doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
Like, that because he's the kind he's the one, like, as he's been saying, he's a soldier. He's on the battlefield. He wants to get his hands bloody and dirty. He's not going to let them test anything on anybody else. No. He's going to be the one that everybody that takes the test because he wants to be sure. He's not, like, again, he wants to be the first one on the battlefield. But like, have we seen him? We haven't seen him transform, have we? So, okay, through the comics, when Super Skrull got his powers, he was stuck in his Skrull form. Mm-hmm. He couldn't transform back. Does this mean? Is it a possibility that he can no longer transform back? Did he, like? Is that why we're only like? I understand the reason they gave why everybody stays in there because they're soldiers and they stay in their form, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I really am wondering, if they're gonna follow the Super Skrull? Is he stuck in his human form?
I got a better question for you. Is he actually a Skrull?
Well, yeah.
Is he? Is this still Gravik? We saw young Gravik, and we've never seen anything from him in between. What if he's just human? What if he's a plant by Fury? I know it's way out there, but in 3 episodes we've never seen him in Skrull form. What if he isn't a Skrull?
But didn't he transformed into the Fury though? In the first episode.
Yeah.
So,
but
he has transforming powers.
Yeah, but that could make him an Inhuman.
Fuck, please God,
that
no.
could make him
God.
a mutant. That could make him a mutant. That could make him Inhuman. That could make him 100 different things. It doesn't necessarily make him a Skrull.
I
know I'm wrong. I know I'm not right, but I wanted to ask the question.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thought, and like, I have theories on why these two are at odds, especially against each other. Because I still swear to God that Nick Fury raised this kid.
Yeah,
with his wife. I swear that's it, and that's why he hates him so much, because he left. He was gone for 5 years, and that's why
More than
he
that.
hates him. Well, no,
More
but
than
he was gone, like, but he disappeared for the 5 years, and then that's when I think that's those 5 years of the blip. That's when he got pissed off about Fury.
And we're gonna go. Now that we're talking about Fury, we're gonna go back. There was a scene. I didn't pull any images as I couldn't find a really good one. Nick Fury's making breakfast in the house, and it's for him and Priscilla, and he gets run down from Priscilla about what happened, and we finally get the backstory to all of this. We get the backstory of them meeting in 1998, and him being like, "No, you're my subordinate. We can't do this." And she's like, "I don't work for you. Nobody knows we work for you. I don't technically follow those rules."
Mm-hmm.
And we fast forward to now, and he's making breakfast. And they talk about his death and how he made her a widow for 5 years during the blip. And then when she was finally managing to get over the loss of Fury, he came back. They did the resnap, he came back. And she was ready to go ahead and move on with their life together now that he was back. And the first thing he did when he got back was leave again.
Yeah.
And he went to the space station. He went to Saber. And he was gone. And she's like, "That's why I'm mad at you." She's like, "If you want to know who I've become and why I am the way I am, it's because of that. It's not the 5 years you were gone when you died. I understand that. But as soon as you came back, you went away."
Yeah, it's this personal feeling, and again, that's why the Gravik stuff really, I swear to Christ, he was a father figure to Gravik, and this is what it's all going to come down to, and it's just a father and a son fighting it out. I am like the fact that he just let and now, like, with the wife reveal and all, I'm like, fuck, this guy's like, and I was watching this with one of my best friends. I stayed over at his place, and we were watching it together on Wednesday morning, and we really came to the conclusion that Nick Fury it is not that great of a person, and he's not that great of a spy. We'll get into that in a little bit later, but
we will.
He is just Nick Fury is kind of shitty. Like, not Samuel L. Jackson, but like the character they're building right now is kind of revealing some dark and shitty aspects of the character.
He's a workaholic. He's a workaholic who can't deal with change. And he found a way to get ahead, and he took that advantage. We also find out in this little flashback and scene here with Priscilla that she's the one who gave him the information about the Red Room in Dreykov that ends up queuing up Black Widow to go back and try to kill Dreykov, which ends up creating Taskmaster. That intel comes directly from Vera, his wife, which I think was fantastic. We move on to the scene in the bar where Fury goes ahead and confronts Talos while he's eating English breakfast. And before we get into this scene, English breakfast looks like the absolute worst thing in the world, by the way. Just going to say it. Eggs with beans and tomatoes and sausage. No, thank you. I'm all set.
That sounds amazing to me. I'm crazy though. But the only issue I have with that is the eggs, and it's not it's just how the eggs are cooked, and they're cooked like sunny side up.
Oh, I love sunny side up. That's great.
Too raw. They're not cooked enough. No, that's the other. But the rest of it looked. Oh my god, dude! You gotta try an English breakfast, dude. They're absolutely amazing. Guarantee you, there's some place where you live that makes
beans are not part of. I'm from Boston. Trust me, but yeah. I can find an English breakfast if I just walk down the street. Beans are not part of my breakfast foods. I don't like tomatoes at all, regardless, especially not in my breakfast food. But in this scene, we get him coming to Talos, and he just sits down, and Talos is like, "Well, if you're gonna ask me for a favor, get the fuck out of here, dude, because I want nothing to do with you." Fury's like, "I didn't come here to ask you for a favor. I just came to talk." He's like, "Well, I don't need you for that either." And then Talos says, and they start talking, and Nick basically lays out what's going on, and he talks about, and he needs him. And Talos is like, "Look, if you need me, you just gotta say it. You gotta be like, Talos, I need your help. I'm useless without you." And at this point, I was watching the episode, I go, Nick Fury ain't gonna fucking say that. He's gonna walk right out of this bar and he's gonna call him a motherfucker and we're just gonna move on. And he stops. And he leans into Talos' ear and he goes, Talos, I need your help. I'm worthless without you.
There's not many people that exist in the MCU that he would come down and say that to. There is something special between these two men. There is a respect there that nobody understands. If Nick Fury is whispering that to somebody who's demanding it to help them, that is like there is a true kinship of the friendship there, man. That I was just like, holy shit! That I did not expect that line to come out of Fury.
Yeah, I was dumbfounded when I heard him say this. I did not think in any way, shape, or form that this was going to be what we saw from Fury in that scene. We then he spells out the fact that we have the Neptune plot and that we have. So Gravik's whole thing in this episode is he has 3 Skrulls. He has the second in command that I don't like. He has the new guy, Bezos or Betos or Bezos or
It's Jeff Bezos.
Yes, the one that the one that Gaia brought in.
Yeah.
That one, the brand new one. And then we have another just random Skrull. And they're going to infiltrate a naval base and they're going to get on a submarine and they're going to shoot a missile and knock a UN plane out of the sky. That's the plan.
And then he reveals the plan in the car to Gaia.
Yep.
Red herring. Red fucking herring.
Yep.
Jesus.
He's setting her up from the moment he starts talking. It's all a setup. Because if it goes off, great. Mission accomplished. I did what I wanted to do. If it fails and Gaia screws it up, well, look. There's my spy.
I gotta give props to how Gaia got the information to Talos. And the fact that she typed it in just the burner phone, obviously. But then she didn't send anything. We find out a guy bumps into him on the street when he came out from the meeting. And he dropped the phone and go, "Oh, sir, this must be yours," and handed him the phone.
Yep.
And it was just
fantastic.
It's great spycraft. Don't get me wrong. It's great spycraft. But as soon as he was talking about it in the car, and I'm sitting there with my friend, and we're both, and he just says, "I think he's setting her up." I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is a setup. This has to be a setup. There's no way this isn't a setup. There's no way he would say that in front of just anybody."
1000% this is a setup. But to get more information that they need, Nick Fury goes back to his lovely lady of Olivia Colman, who runs the British spy service, and she's taking apart the piece that he had, and she apparently took out the she took out the owl's eye, and she goes, his name used to be Hoot, but his name is now Nicholas Fury. And he has a little eye. Look how cute this owl looks with the eye patch. It's so great. By the way, this was the hardest shot. Like, getting the shot with the Skrull when in mid-transformation, that was easy compared to this. Because this shot, without her hand in it, is literally 2 frames of footage. And I had to slow it down so hard.
I can still see her hand in the bottom left.
I know. Isn't that... It was so tough to get that shot because I wanted just that shot of her without her hand in there of the owl.
Hoot Fury.
Yep. I mean, she calls him Nicholas Fury now. The owl's real name is Nick Fury, but as Andre says, the way I have it in here is Hoot Fury. Again, this is a nothing scene. It just gets us to our next plot point. But I thought that the owl was too cute not.
Well, she essentially gives them the name of the general that's in charge of the sub.
Yeah,
I know. On land. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, it was a scene that had to be there just to move the plot along.
Mm-hmm.
But the only real thing that I thought was interesting was the owl.
Hoot Fury. Yeah.
We then get to dog poop. And I never thought that in a Marvel Talk episode that dog poop would be one of the most important scenes of the show. But we're here.
Oh, jeez.
Andre, I want you to go ahead and talk about this scene, because I've done a lot of the talking here. I want you to go ahead and talk about the dog poop, but more importantly, how it relates to the show and what it means going forward.
Well, it's 2 guys having legitimately the most basic conversation about, if you're not one of those people who pick up poop that picks up after their dog, you're kind of an asshole. And it just the comparisons of the different people, like some people willing to just leave it behind and create chaos, and then the others in the world like want to clean it up and fix it and make sure nobody has any problems going forward. Again, that's what I kind of took from it. But I just it was just the best goddamn conversation I could ever listen to in in a comic book TV show. Two dudes talking about picking up poop.
Yeah, I did love the idea that Fury thinks he cleans up everybody's mess. And then
Yep.
how Mendelsohn just launches into him with, how could you think that? Everything you've gotten in this world to get you to where you are is because of us. How dare you think you're cleaning up my mess? How dare you think you're cleaning up our mess? You were a level 3 SHIELD agent when we met you in 1995. You were riding a desk, you had no idea what you were doing, and all you had was this idea for the Protectors Initiative. Because
Yeah,
remember,
like
before he meets Carol Danvers, it's the Protector Initiative.
yeah, and again, it's an absolute gem of a show. And this is another spot where me and my friend going, so this guy isn't even a super fucking spy.
Nope.
This guy is literally a guy who got lucky, met some goddamn Skrulls, convinced them to help him, and has been riding the Skrull coattail for his entire goddamn career now.
Now, I'm going to take slight offense to that, and I'm going to point a counterpoint. I don't think he rode the Skrulls' coattails. I think he put them in the right positions to do the things he did. Yes, Talos is entirely correct that all the information that he got that nobody could get was because of the fact that he had Skrulls working for him.
Mm-hmm.
But a good spy isn't just somebody who gets information. It's about a person who knows how to cultivate relationships, to get the right information. But not only to get the right information, to get the right information without corrupting a source, without making a problem. And throughout his career, Nick Fury has made a way to get all the information he needs to do all the great things he's done. But it's not that he's using the Skrulls. It's the fact that it was a mutually beneficial relationship. That he let them be on Earth and hide in plain sight, but to do so, he wanted something in return. Now,
Yeah.
did it help make him seem untouchable, that he knew everything? Yes, of course. It's fine that he's not in the right here. Talos is absolutely in the right. But to sit here and say that Nick Fury was just going to be what Nick Fury was before Captain Marvel, after having met the Skrulls, I think is a little disingenuous. I think he would have been a fine spy regardless. I just think that the Skrulls gave him a level of access to information that nobody else could ever get. But that doesn't make him a bad spy. In fact, I think that makes him a better spy. Because he knows how to cultivate those relations. Because a good cop-CI relationship isn't about having the ability for the cop to be able to go undercover all the time. It's about being able to cultivate relationships with the right people so that you can put people in positions to give you the right information when you need it.
So, to the point of Talos's and Gravik's conversation about politicians versus soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of lends credence to Nick Fury being more of a politician than it all. If you really
Absolutely.
think about it, he is the politician in this world. He's using everybody else to do the not. I'm not saying he hasn't done any dirty work himself, but he's using other people to do his dirty work. He's the politician in it all. I just connected it like right now because you were saying that. I'm like, Jesus, yeah, Nick Fury's the politician. But he's a politician that.
He's the politician now. He was the soldier who became a politician. See, he's the difference.
And
Because
that's
when we meet him in 90... Sorry, go ahead.
But that's what Gravik, I think, will end up turning into the politician. Is a man, he's going to sacrifice people. He's going to start sacrificing them, and he's going to be the guy pushing the chess pieces instead of running out there and punching a guy in the face.
Because remember, when we met Nick Fury in 95, he's on a desk, but he's in the field. He's doing
Mm-hmm.
the things in the field. Then we hear the stories from Alexander Pierce, who they bring up in this they brought up in the past episode with Bogota. He obviously had Skrulls that helped him pull off Bogota, but he still went and did it. He was still in the field to be able to do the things he did to get all of those people out of that place in Bogota. Even into the early Avengers days, he was in the field. He was in the helicarrier. He wasn't leading from a desk. He was in the helicarrier. He was face to face with all the threats. He wasn't necessarily
Face the ship.
Okay, but you get what I'm saying. He was more involved than the Security Council, who was a shady council behind. You know what I'm saying? Like, those were the politicians of the early days of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then you go into Winter Soldier, where he's in the field again. Nick Fury was in the field for a lot of this until now.
Okay, I retract my statement about him riding all the Skrulls' coattails. I'll retract my statement on that one.
But no, it's a good point counterpoint kind of thing, because that's what Talos is saying, is that you rode us all the way to the top, and Nick Fury's like, I mean, sure, but at the same time, I think they could have given him bad intel.
Yeah.
So I mean, he got people in the right positions to give him the intel he needed, but it was a great scene where, again, it just the two of them just having a dialogue. And it all started from dog poop. And I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world, that all of that starts from dog poop. We then get them breaking into the house of the commandant who runs the naval ship that's about to blow its missile. And we easily find out early on that he's a Skrull, because when Talos gets caught by the first guard, the first time Talos gets caught by the guard, we see Nick Fury shoot guards, and he kills guards, and they turn into Skrulls. So at that point, we know that he's a Skrull. We then have Fury get into the house, and he goes, Talos, where are you? What's going on? And Talos comes on, and he says, hey, Nick, sorry, I was busy. I was kicking Bob's ass. But he said Nick. He goes, Nick, I was busy. And so we now see Fury come into the room, and he's got the son at gunpoint. Why? Because nobody calls me Nick.
So good. I love that there's a way, like, you have that ability, like that code phrase ability, be like Nick, like, and like somebody that doesn't know you has like a graphic might know that, but random general number 3 is not going to know that.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree. I thought it was fantastic. They then get into a detente between the three of them, because basically the Skrull has feelings for this human child. And I thought that was really confusing, because I'm like, oh, maybe he's not a Skrull. Like, maybe he just kidnapped Nick and he didn't know any better. And that's why Nick knew that he needed a bargaining chip, because Talos was in trouble, because Talos would never call him Nick in that instance.
Well, maybe the kid is a Skrull, and it's a Skrull son.
And that's the thing. The only two ideas I can come up with, one is that the son is also a Skrull, and that's one of his family, or the second option, which I thought was really good, and it was posed by Eric Voss in his breakdown of the episode. Again, I never take credit for other people's theories. I like to go ahead and
100%
present the people who gave them. What if, in taking on these identities and these people, especially for as long term as a lot of these Skrulls are doing in positions of power, especially this one, whose whole identity is tied up in his son, which we'll see in a little bit, we'll talk about that. His whole identity is tied up in his son, where to the point where his distress code to abort a mission is his son's name. Maybe the emotions in that soul are so important that it overtakes the Skrull portion, that he feels for that son and he can't let anything bad happen to the son, because the father in him that he's taken on is so important.
Because if this kid is a Skrull, How
Yeah.
long have they been under together? That's the question. Was it 2 years ago? Was it 10 years ago? Was it 12 years ago?
Yep.
How much has he bonded with this person? That's the thing. And he made, like, again, they had to use a younger Skrull because he was playing a younger person.
Hmm.
So, like, how much has he taken this Skrull under his wing and teaching him the Skrull ways and all this stuff? And again, having to play a character every single day, you're gonna embody that character. You're gonna start to embody that character in more ways than you can ever imagine. Same
Yep.
with the kid, uh, becoming this other character, and probably seeing, and maybe he is a younger Skrull. So this younger Skrull is looking at this older Skrull, going, and like looks at this person as a father figure, which can create that feeling for the older Skrull to become that father figure to him.
Yep.
And yeah, but again, maybe it's an actual father son Skrull relationship. We don't know. There was lots of kid Skrulls running around in there, so there's probably teenager Skrulls in there too. And again, it's all, there's so many questions you really got to ask. Is like, and we'll never get the answer,
Nope.
obviously, but you wonder, that relationship bond them, or was they actually family before that? You never know.
Yep. Talos and Nick Fury eventually get free. They tie up the Skrull commandant, and he continues to taunt Talos. He's obviously on Gravik's side. He obviously has no respect for Talos whatsoever,
No,
and
he pretty much, he flat out says he has no respect for them. He
and
flat out says it. Yeah.
he goes ahead so far to the point where he even suggests that Gaia is a spy, and at that point, Talos knows this man cannot live anymore, and he shoots him dead. But
Mm-hmm.
they still need the abort code, so Talos calls Gaia, and she, without instinct, without worry, without anything, goes right into the pod, beats up a couple Skrulls along the way, gets into the fracking pod that has this particular human in it.
General, yeah.
Yeah, and goes ahead and searches his memories to find his abort code. Realizes that all he can think about is his son. That must be the code. She relays that to her father. Her father says, "Get out. Get out of there as fast as you can." But in some of the people that she passed, she's seen some of the Skrulls that we've known. Just want to put this out there for a future episode. This is the scientist who's working on the project to create Super Skrulls. She's not human. She's a Skrull.
Mm-hmm.
We
She's a
didn't
Skrull.
see her husband, but we did see her. Interesting to know, but I just wanted to put that out
Doctor
there.
Rosas, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Rose something.
Yeah,
But
Rosa.
anyways,
Yeah.
they go ahead and they avert disaster with the UN thing. The plane does not get shot down, and Gaia's on the run to get out of there. She goes ahead and she steals a motorcycle. She looks past the guardhouse, which again, another fantastic call out by the new Rockstars crew. The empty guardhouse, exactly like it would have been in The Godfather. When Sonny Corleone gets shot, how the guardhouse is empty there because the guard ducks down, so he's not privy to whatever happens. Gravik catches her on the main road, and he confronts her, and he shoots her dead.
Yeah.
She turns from human to Skrull and bleeds. Doesn't bleed out, but bleeds. Now, to be frank, I don't believe she's dead in any way, shape, or form because the trailers have shown us 1,000 scenes of her that haven't been in the show so far.
Again, same. I have the same feeling, but is that Gaia in those scenes?
Yeah,
Is
I
is
agree.
that is that one of his other Skrulls that he now has take over Gaia, or pretend to be Gaia? But again, they don't have the fracking. They can't frack her memories. That's the only issue.
Well, if they have that particular person that she's portraying, then yeah, maybe.
But again, it depends on, they probably know Talos enough to be able to get whoever this. Again, we don't know. Is she dead? Will she be saved? Did Olivia Colman drive up to a minute later and pull her into a vehicle? We don't know. There's always these.
There's another scenario that I heard thrown out there, and I really like this scenario. In the last episode, they turned on the machine while Gaia was sneaking around in the lab with the scientists in Pragan, right? What if she has extremist powers?
We get
What
in
if she lives?
the open next week is her going back up.
Because remember, the previously on specifically shows us the scene where the machine turns on with her down there. I'm just saying. It was thrown out by New Rockstars. It would be a very interesting idea. What if she accidentally got extremist powers just by being in the room?
Holy shit. Oh, wow.
While you ponder that, we go ahead and we get the end of the episode where Nicholas Fury's wife is going ahead and she's on the run. She grabs a particular key out of a thing that you obviously wouldn't open much. It doesn't even look like something that would have keys in it. She goes to a bank, to a safety deposit box. She opens the safety deposit box, and in it is a gun. Which I thought was weird, that it was only a gun in the safety deposit box. It seemed weird. But she goes ahead and she pulls out her phone. And she's talking to somebody on the other end. And she wants to talk to Gravik. And the person on the other end says, "You can't have Gravik right now, but you're talking to me." The person in this scene, dun dun dun, it's Rhodey.
Is it
James Rhodes is on the other end of that phone.
You sure?
That was the voice. That was absolutely 1000% the voice. So far, I can guarantee that he was credited at the beginning of the episode and in the credits as Don Cheadle as James Rhodes. And and the voice actor in German is the exact same actor who does his lines in every Marvel project. Again, thank you, New Rockstars, for going ahead and finding that tidbit. It is the same voice actor who does Rhodey's lines in all of the German dubs of all the Marvel projects.
So I've been right. Rhodey, I've been right since the beginning. Rhodey's a Skrull, and we're getting Terrence Howard back. Come on, let's go. Okay, I'm taking that one.
And Nick, again, I hate to go back on New Rockstars and ride their coattails, but they make such fantastic content that I want to go ahead and bring these.
We're the Nick Fury of it all, man. Come on.
Yeah. The real question is, would Marvel? So the question is, if he's a Skrull, how long has he been a Skrull? And Eric Voss, in his mindset, says it would be incorrect of Marvel in his own heart to go any further back than Endgame. I think it goes back all the way to Iron Man 2. I'll be honest. I think the perfect out for them is that it's all the way back to Iron Man 2, between 1 and 2, where the first time we see Rhodey as Don Cheadle, he comes walking up to Tony Stark and he says, "It's me, it's fine, get over it." To explain why he doesn't look like himself and to just move on from it.
But if that's the case, we need to have a Terrence Howard appearance in this goddamn show. If that's the case of where he was changed,
I still think you save Terrence Howard for later on. I don't think you do Terrence Howard in Secret Invasion. I think that's because I don't think Rhodey's going to get outed in this episode in these episodes. I think it might go on for Rhodey
because we do have Armor Wars coming.
Armor Wars is coming. And that's going to be a movie now. So if you're going to do that as a movie, you might want Terrence Howard there. However,
True.
all of it works. But again, I'll go back to Eric Voss. He thinks that if you go past Endgame, you get into some dicey emotional territory because you have the moment of Tony Stark's funeral and you have Rhodey crying and you take away those emotional scenes from Endgame where Rhodey's there as Tony dies and you take away the emotional scene at the end. Now, granted, you could say that he's developed all these emotions in these years being bonded to Tony Stark as best friends, and that he emotionally feels the same thing that the real James Rhodes would feel. And I think that's your out if you're Marvel for that, when people bring that argument to you. But those emotional moments at the end of Endgame, would it be too much to have those from a Skrull as opposed to a human?
No, because if you watch that scene, I've watched it a bunch of times. I love that movie.
I do too.
Peter's crying, like when Tony's dying. Uh, Pepper's crying. Rhodey doesn't cry.
Rhodey cries at the funeral, though.
Oh, that's right.
Remember, at the lakeside funeral,
yeah,
Rhodey has tears.
But that's it. But that's him acting in the moment. That's the Skrull acting in the moment. Because the Skrull, when he's seeing the guy die, doesn't cry. When this kid who's only known him for a few years prior to the blip is crying his eyes out.
But remember, there's an emotional reaction from Rhodey in that moment. There isn't he doesn't cry like Pepper does. He doesn't cry like Peter does. But there's an emotional response from Rhodey in that moment.
I always thought he seemed kind of dead in that moment, in my personal opinion. I always thought he seemed like dead, like kind of not reacting.
It's the great mystery of what we're gonna find out with this episode. I'm just so glad they decided to go there.
But then there's the other side of it all. Is it Rhodey? Is he? But maybe he's not a Skrull. And Gravik has just convinced this dude to become part of his side. Maybe he's lied to him in the New World Order that America is going to be its own independent nation and whatever. Maybe he's been lied to. There's also that, because again, in some ways I want Rhodey to be a Skrull, but in other ways I don't, because to me it takes away certain things from the character, like we've been saying. But again, there's a way the Skrull could have been emotionally connected. But like, I also think it would be even more interesting if he's not a Skrull at all. He's a deep shadow government guy who's decided, fuck this, I'm going with the powerhouse. Like, is Rhodey the kind of guy that would, or maybe he's talked to the president and he's been because he was approached by Gravik. Is there a possibility that it's deep shadow government stuff, and he's and it's a deal that's being made with the Skrulls by the U.S. president, but it's not in the end? You know, and there's all these little. You never know with what could come. And God, would I love that any of this could be possible. It's so much.
Yeah. And with that, the episode ends, and we're left wondering what's going to happen next.
God, I can't wait for next Wednesday.
I know.
And we might be live on Wednesday night because I don't have to work that night.
Yeah, we can go live next Wednesday.
There we go.
But Andre, why don't you go ahead and tell the people where we can find you this week?
You can find me as always, on Andre and Melball Wrestling Talk at youtube.com/Andre and Melball at Andre Mel, youtube.com/@Andre Melball Wrestling Talk. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Hive, and now TikTok at That Canada Guy. I got a TikTok, but I don't post anything there, so don't expect anything yet. And also on Instagram at That Canada Dude. Lots of stuff. You can also find me right now, if you want to go hear my thoughts on the live Dynamite I went to, go over to SNME Radio and check out, it's on the free feed this week. Check out the AEW 3D podcast where Matthew Eder had me on as a guest, where I got to talk all about my experience and talk all about the episode of Dynamite that I went to this past Wednesday. So please check that out if you're interested. It's on their free feed, so please check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
You can find me right here, EdFries12584. You can find me on Twitch at EdFries2002, where I do all kinds of gaming stuff. I'll be back live on that tomorrow night as we go ahead and search for some more Marvel Snap as we continue to use the Phoenix Force card on my main account or some of the other cards on my other account as I go ahead and progress through the ranks on both of those accounts. We also might play a little bit more of my faction in WWE 2K23. You can find me every Tuesday night with the wonderful Asher Bizarre as we talk all things NXT as we go ahead and do Taking Over. And dropping soon, within the next month or two, I would expect for us to start dropping our episodes of Talking Takeover, where Asher and I are going to go back all the way to the beginning, and we're going to start with Arrival, and we're going to go and we're going to have either monthly or bi-monthly episodes whenever we can get them out and they have some time. We're going to go ahead and drop episodes talking about every TakeOver and NXT network event. The old network stuff, all leading up through the 36 takeovers. So Arrival is the only other episode that we're going to talk about that's not technically a takeover. Everything else will be a takeover.
I used to love that, so I would love to come on that.
Well, we'll probably find you a time where you can jump on there too. But for myself, Ol'Ed, for Andre C, go ahead and make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, leave your comments about the episode that you watched and what you think about it. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Ask us questions about what you think we want to talk about next week, and we'll go ahead and address some of those next week. For us, we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.